Welcome to another episode of Critical Affection, where we affectionately criticize the things that we love. And today we're going to affectionately criticize the surgeon, but I think this might be another one of those ones where we don't have much to criticize, because this is a pretty damn good series. With me tonight is Johnny Old Paint Pence. Oh, that's I messed that right up, didn't I?
Doesn't roll right off the tongue.
Oh, I was good right up until I got to the double P. Then it was messed it up. So I was in the process of bringing this up here so that we can look at it, because we are really pretty close to goal on it, and that's pretty exciting.
That is pretty exciting. It's not been a week. And we get to what, February 17th?
Yes.
Hey, Katie.
Now you no, yeah, 16th. Yeah, the 16th it ends. Hey, Katie, thanks for joining us. I like it. This thing says that nobody's watching, and I already know that that's wrong because Katie's watching. Stupid, inaccurate technology. God. Anyway, so yeah, I've got this. Look at it right here. So 174 backers. Is that a record?
Cool. It went up since the last time I saw it.
Yeah. I saw it this morning, and it's weird because on that first day you're just refreshing it constantly, right? And then after that, it just slowly stop doing that to yourself.
Well, no. When you're the creator, you refresh it constantly every single day, and it eats a hole in your liver and in your heart and in your brain.
Maybe I'm just used to doing it now. Like I just save my sanity. I do it too much.
But yeah, I haven't looked at it for easily like 2 hours. So
nice. That's good.
Yeah.
Is this a record for backer numbers for the surgeon?
I don't know. I feel like we've had 200-ish, but
yeah, we should find that out.
That's 200-ish.
Yeah, we should find it out and
yeah,
check
I'm
it
not a numbers guy, and I'm notoriously not a numbers guy.
Well, this is this is still doing great, and we've got like a whole week and a couple extra days after that. So, yeah, if you haven't backed it yet, go check it out. Ooh, I have a thing here to tell you where to go. There it is. Go.lagunastudios.net is where you want to go, and check it out. And if you like it, throw a couple bucks at us to back it. It's a really good story, and if you didn't read any of the other ones, you can get that on the campaign. Like, we're offering all the books in the series. So, yeah.
And one of the things that I ultimately I don't like this, but I do like it. The pledges that I saw happen today were like $10, $3. That's honestly like, that's people paying what they want to pay for supporting a comic book, getting the digital copy because they want to read it. Nobody's made of money in this economy.
No.
And I've watched comics Kickstarters in the past year, 6 months do a lot worse than they used to. They used to catch on fire. So if we can, maybe we're not catching on fire, but we're nice and warm.
Yeah. Well on track to make goal, and that is the most important thing. But if we make goal, then we can start cranking out the cool extras for stretch goals. So that's
right.
That's the thing. This is I was like, normally I would do some studio news before we jump right on into this stuff, but like, this is the news, so this Kickstarter is our studio's news. And yeah, it's still doing great. I think I got spoiled the second we had I think it was Ian's art book funded in like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And we were still on stream, and then from then on I was like, every single one of them's gonna fund within an hour or two. And obviously that doesn't happen. That has only happened twice to us ever.
Well, I think like Surgeon 4 and 5 caught on fire, just and then but that was in the days when that happened.
With the it's like you said, it's a very unstable economy right now, so I'm not surprised that, and it's not just us, nobody's comics are doing as well
Yeah.
as they were. And that sucks because I know people want to buy the comics. And that's it.
So BA said,
Yes.
thanks for the
Brad,
playlist. I'm so glad at least one person listened to it. That's great to hear.
that's awesome. I saw it and I saw it and I meant to put it up, but it's a Spotify list, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
I can't get the stupid thing to work on my phone, which was driving me crazy. And so I was like, then
You
I
have
was
an
like, I'll just
iPhone?
put it on late. I have an iPhone, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Spotify versus iPhone is like um, Apple versus Adobe, or Apple versus Microsoft.
Versus
It,
literally everyone, because who hasn't Apple gotten into a fight with?
Apple versus USB.
Right. Yeah, no, I was like, my thought was like, oh, when I get back to the house, I will try it on the regular computer, and then I completely forgot. So, but I looked at it and I saw that it was like all the artists on there are great. There's actually a couple that I'd never heard of, so that's good. I
Yeah.
always like to
Hopefully,
learn
there's a
about
few
new stuff.
that are new to our friends. Hopefully, I was able to share something.
Yeah, and if you don't know what we're talking about, this is in Laguna Studios Discord thing, so it's on there right now. I don't know where John shared it, but that's where you can get it. And if you want an invite to that, you should send us a message.
Yeah, it's in the Discord.
Yeah.
It is an update. Yeah, it's an update to the Kickstarter, and
Oh, sure,
I've
sure.
posted it on at least some of my socials. I might have not gotten
So you
around
have to
all.
either be John's friend or a backer or on the Discord.
Yeah.
I actually, if you want to back to get access to that playlist, that's like my first preference.
Yeah, sure.
But otherwise, if you want to be in that Discord, I got invites, and I will give you one. And yeah, you just have to just message us at Laguna Studios Comics on Facebook. I'll
I
send you
could
an
I, I
invite.
could probably post the link here. Is that like if I paste it here, that'd be something people were able to
To the Discord
copy from the text?
or from the
Mm,
updates.
like here on the live stream.
Yeah,
Probably
you can
not.
post it in the comments. I don't know how it access to it, but I don't know if it gets people to back us for a playlist. It's a good
Yeah.
playlist.
I don't know if I can post in the comments here. I don't think I can. Oh well.
Well, we got ways. I know I saw ZZ Top on there and the Ramones on there, and the first couple of artists on there. So like, it's good. Obviously, you don't see ZZ Top on a playlist that's bad.
It was selected with love.
Exactly. So, as far as the surgeon goes, I know you've probably answered this question a million times, but we gotta run through these basic
You
questions,
gotta do
right?
the thing.
Of
Yeah.
of where did the idea come from? Did you just wake up one morning and like,
Yeah. So the idea was brewing for a long time. So in my early 30s, I got nice Tom Waits. Um, my in my early 30s, I needed some exercise. I needed to get something done, and so I started studying Tai Chi and Kung Fu and things like that. And with that, you kind of learn anatomy, and you learn where the parts of a bone that'll break are. You learn what will incapacitate a person but not kill them, what'll kill them, that kind of stuff. And so studying anatomy for that, and also being a guy who has had several like gnarly injuries and been through a lot of physical therapy. Not from Kung Fu, by the way. That I work out with people that I trust who are friends. Um, but you see an overlap, and this goes back. Chiron, you know who Chiron is?
yeah,
Chiron is the centaur who trained all the Greek heroes like Pericles.
oh
He
yeah.
was
You know what? Pierce Brosnan played him in one of those Percy Jackson movies, I think.
All right. Of course he did. Of course he did.
He made a good
So
one.
yeah, he's like the warrior doctor archetype.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
anyway, so that that archetype is old, and then some friends and colleagues and I were kind of challenging each other to come up with a story pitch and see what had legs and what didn't. And I started thinking about that, and when I have to write something. All right, so there's two ways it happens. One is that like I have an idea and I just need to attend to it, and one is like write something. Somebody tells me to. Um, and so the game when I'm told to do it is I ask what if. And through a series of what ifs, it ended up being post-apocalyptic. It ended up being about a doctor. Um, it ended up being a woman, and it ended up where she's not really a straightforward hero. Um, yeah, and then the rest of it was just like what needs to happen, And then when you create a character, a lot of times that character takes over and tells you what they want to do, um, what they are going to do, whether you like it or not. And Dr. Hanover was really easy like that. She's a really strong personality, so she had no trouble letting me know what she was going to do.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I spent about 6 weeks on Google Earth, like doing street level views of that area in South Dakota. We wandered around. We figured out how far somebody could get in a day on horseback.
A lot of research.
And by we, me and Doc Hanover and Paint. Paint helped out too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's a lot. That's a lot
Yeah,
of research.
Probably more than most people are willing to do. Yeah, but that all gave me so much backstory and so much stuff that I can write in prequels and sequels if the opportunity arises.
For sure. There's only a couple people that I know personally for sure that'll do that much background work that you'll never even see in the story, which is interesting. But if you ever get one of those nitpickers that's gonna be like, this couldn't possibly happen, you can be like, actually, I did the legwork. It can.
Oh, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I was that asshole in high school. I love to get substitute teachers, and actually them, and that's terrible. That's no way to be. I repent those ways. I'm ready for them too.
So, how did you decide that Doc Hanover was going to be a woman? Because I think I meant to ask you this, or I almost asked you, but I didn't get to that point. How you said something about her becoming totally different when you decided that she was going to be a woman.
Yeah.
So how did you come to that?
So, it started out being the character was kind of a Jonah Hex, archetype, Mad Max. You can pick any number of people who wear cowboy hats and cuss, but I don't know. It didn't feel quite right. And the game of what if, like what if this person had brown skin instead of white skin? What if this person had what if this person came from a rich background? What if this person this and the other? And the thing that really tugged on my line the most was what if she was a woman? It was like, because if you are in a lawless environment, every woman friend I've ever known talks about like walking to her car at night, walking from one place to another alone, and just how scary that can be. What if that was your world? That would be pretty scary.
Mhm.
and it would require a certain amount of confidence, but it would also mess with your head, I think.
For sure.
And so I really just took the same character with the cigar and the Jonah Hex character, and just put him in a different body and let her do the talking, and it was easy once it happened. Um,
She experiences a moment of sex. I can remember it, a moment of sexism right away in the very first book.
yeah,
Um,
I was
as
criticized for that. Apparently, the threat of rape should not be used as a plot point, and I just was unaware of that.
I
Um,
don't think that it was really a plot point though either. It was just I thought it was a good story building, a good world building thing to point out, to highlight. First of all, it doesn't happen. She's never in any real danger because of her skill.
no,
And the guy who performs the sexism on her, the guy who's responsible for the sexist the sexist behavior is unaware that he is in no way a match for her. And so I think that it was an excellent introduction to just exactly how dangerous Doc Hanover is and can be.
right. Well, yeah, thanks. And I've been criticized for that moment in the plot, and since then I get it. Sure, if I had it to do differently, I probably would. Just knowing that that's like taboo. That like as a white cis male writer, I think I can get away with a lot of stuff that maybe I can't necessarily. You know,
Sure, that's
um,
possible.
that's
Well,
possible.
I'm a woman. I thought it wasn't at all. I mean, yeah, okay, so it could have been very triggering for somebody who's gone
Yeah,
through more than what I've gone through, because like all of us, all women have a story, which sucks, but it's true. But so I can see it being triggering for people, but for me personally, it was more of a, oh, for Christ's sake, this again, even in the apocalypse, you know, and that
right.
it was really cool to immediately be introduced to her experiencing something that we experience on on a regular basis, and dealing with it in such a very straightforward manner, and very and badass too. Like she's badass.
She is, and that's what I wanted to get after. And I think that point is made, and it's in print, and that's the story that I told. Um, you know, if you don't learn anything and you don't grow from your experiences, what do you got?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that's true. Yeah. Like I don't know that I believe that the criticism is warranted, because I don't personally believe that it was that graphic, but I can see the direction that it's coming from, and like and you learn
yeah.
the thing. So that's good.
And one thing I've learned is, like, if somebody tells you don't do this, it makes me afraid, or don't do this, it is insulting, or don't do this, it um, you know makes me worry and question you.
Hmm.
Okay, I won't. Sorry. Um, and white cis male growing up in the South, I've had the opportunity to piss off a lot of people just by, you know, um, ignorance.
Sure.
So we learn, we grow, we try.
Yeah, well, I think that it was important to include some sort of moment to prove to prove that just because it's the apocalypse doesn't mean that we don't have to still deal with the same
Right.
systemic bullshit that we've been dealing with for hundreds of years now. So I think
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
a
and that was the spirit in which I wrote it, I think.
yeah.
You know,
and and yeah, like, and she's also white, so she and I know that it matters less in the story than it does in the real world.
right.
Unfortunately, a story is more progressive. This story about the apocalypse is a little more progressive in that one particular way, but there is the allusion to that stuff, and it's interesting how you wove it in there. The
Uh,
allusion to the racism as
yeah,
well.
race. Well, this when you think, how remote can we get? Okay, society has collapsed. major urban centers and any place with the strip mall is going to be, yeah, that's going to be dangerous. Population is probably bad, so you want to get out to where there isn't anybody. Right at the edge of the Badlands, right at the feet of the Black Hills in South Dakota, there's not many people there. Um, and the people who are there are largely Native Americans placed on reservations who, after the United States kind of collapses and goes underground with whatever it's got left, they're like, finally,
Yeah.
out. But then they're dealing with the wasted land that they're left. Which again, like, thanks a lot.
Yeah. Left it to us after you screwed it all up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then yeah, you don't really directly say I don't remember, but like I don't remember any direct yeah, thanks for messing everything up and then giving it back to us kind of stuff from the people that are living there, but like it's you don't need to say it because that's how it would be if it really happened.
Yeah. Well, in chapter 1, when we first meet Little Bird, and he's standing outside the fort taunting them, he gives them a list of fuck yous that includes things like that. But it's just such a good list of fuck yous that we
It's
don't
hard to remember them all.
Yeah, we
There's
don't
so many good
necessarily
ones.
write them all down. I did.
Yeah. So okay, I do have a question that just randomly popped up in my head as you were talking about that. Do you know exactly how long you're having this time between the beginning of the first book and the end of the last book here? How many months / years have passed? Because seasons, I know seasons pass. Well, obviously, you just have to look at the covers of all the various books to say that seasons are passing. But like, do we have a hard and fast timeline?
I feel like, all right, Little Bird in chapter 1 had his guts pretty much falling out from a recent wound that by chapters 3 and 4 is good and infected. So that's maybe 2 weeks. Then by 4 and 5, he's on his feet and raising hell again. So 3 or 4 months. I don't know. I don't know how long it would take to get back on your feet from that. But so there is the progression from like chapter 1 and 2 being really hot and dusty. Chapters 2 and 3 and a little bit of 4 being really rainy. And then 4 being okay weather, but 5 being thunder snow. So it's less than a year, probably.
Okay. Well, that's good news for fans of this world and these characters, because that means that you've only written a year tops of story in just these books. So like, there's places for you to go here because you've written just 1 year in the lives of all these people. So that's
right,
cool.
Right. And there's lots of stuff that has gone on behind closed doors. There's a really like harsh snub from Abner, the like apprentice doctor, at the end of chapter 6, that I kind of had to write in at the last minute because Omar didn't draw the dude in the page, and I just wanted the page done. So he didn't draw a character in there, and I had to put it there. And so that made me spin off a whole other story about what had happened in the background, why he's so mad. And if we get around to doing a collected graphic novel, I'd really love to do some short stories about things that were happening in the background or things that happened immediately before or after events in the story.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That's all stuff that, I mean, I'm sure that everybody watching would agree because I'm pretty sure everybody watching is a fan of the series. Just based on the people that watch the show in general.
Yeah,
uh, I know a lot of these people, and I know that they all have at least one copy of this book. But but yeah, like I'm sure everybody would love to see that collected piece once we're done here. And uh, and I know I'm excited to help you make it happen too. And I would like to see backstory. I would like to know more about Abner, of course, but I would like to know about like Rogers before they meet, before the
yeah,
surgeon and
yeah.
Rogers meet. I'd like to know more about Martinez. He's an interesting guy that you don't get to see all that much of. Um,
And him and Smithy.
yeah,
I
Smithy too.
like. I've asked the artists all along to kind of show a tenderness between Dr. Martinez and Smitty. I think they're like an old married couple. I think they are. I think they're long-term sweethearts, but it's kind of low key, and they don't like live in the same house. Um, but there's a couple moments when if you go back and you look at the whole series, um, you see those two together in some tender moments, and the dialogue between them, I think, is important too.
Yeah, and I definitely I'm gonna have to go back and reread everything because I know that there's stuff just based on just like the past week and a half of activities of you know putting the Kickstarter together and then launching it and then the conversations that we've had about it in since it's been a week. Yeah, tomorrow it'll be a week.
Yeah,
And so just in that time, I've learned enough to realize there's a bunch of stuff I'd missed as running themes and jokes and stuff that I didn't appreciate until I got to the issue 6, and then I was like, oh, now I got to go back and like catch all that stuff more. It's definitely a book you can read more than once, or a series you can read more than once.
yeah.
And
And as a comics reader, I'm terrible about just like blasting through, like, woo, I'm done in 15 minutes. Because like that, when I was a little boy, reading was not easy. So when I got a comic, I was like, okay, I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to finish this in less than 20 minutes. And I just got it down to 15. I could read all the way through really fast. I was proud of myself. And so now it's easy to miss stuff like that.
sure.
If you just read it once. So hopefully, hopefully I put the invitations in there to read more than once.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Especially if you're, if you are, you have said you want to continue this universe. This maybe Doc Hanover, maybe not, maybe somebody
Yeah.
else. Like, I also one of the other things that I'd like to know more about is how the hell the hot animal machines became a thing, because that's weird. There's
Yeah.
a story there. I mean, there's a lot of other little side stories that can be told in addition to Doc Hanover, who like we've seen six books worth of her, and she's a person who wants to be good, but she just makes a lot of bad choices.
She does. And a lot of those choices are her thinking she isn't. I'll go ahead and deconstruct her a little bit. Um, she doesn't think she's good enough to be good.
Okay.
Um, and I think we have known people like that. I think that we have, you know, we went to high school with those guys, and we went to college with those guys. We worked with those people, and
Sometimes we are those people.
sometimes we are those people. Yeah, and she she there's a short fiction piece in the back of chapter 5 or chapter 4, I forget, which talks about the early days of society falling apart, but how she went from you know uh, Johns Hopkins medical residency to that. Um, that I know how it happened, and it wasn't nice. she made some choices to sacrifice herself for something larger. Um, and so, ever since she was on top of the world as an orthopedic surgeon from one of the best medical schools in the country, um, so she's way up here. She just keeps making decisions to at first be altruistic and then just gets in the habit of sabotaging herself.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that she can fight really well. So she can get away with it.
And it was issue 4 where we get a little bit of the short story with her backstory.
It was 4 or 5. I don't remember. I think it was
I
4.
think it was 4, but it might be 5. Just all the more reason everybody should just buy one of each. We have a whole tier for that. But yeah, like a good. You don't get all of the backstory, but you get plenty of it. You get a decent chunk, and you get to see a little bit of why she is the way she is. A little.
That story. I was real proud of that because before I wrote it as prose, I had written it as a comic script, and this is in the early days of Elsewhere. I gave it to Zach and said, "Hey, do you think we could do this for Elsewhere?" And he read it, and he said, "No, that's too harsh and too intense." And if you know Zach Dolan, that was high
That's
praise.
a big deal. Yeah, that's a big deal. Yeah, it takes a lot for it to be too much for Zach. I knew that. I knew that about him. And he would have drawn the hell out of it, but he's not wrong. That it's a very dark story. It is a very intense story. It's a very good story.
I would hate for that to be in a middle school library and some impressionable can't pick it. Actually, no, I wouldn't hate it. That's exactly who I'm writing for every time I pick up the keyboard. I'm writing for the 8th grader who's about to just have a nervous breakdown because the comics they read.
Yeah. That's. I mean, it's a really dark story, but yeah, I that's the kind of shit I would have read in 8th grade. So, I mean, I plowed through all the Stephen King books when I was way too young. I think that you should at least be in double digits before you pick up your first Stephen King book, as far as age goes.
Yeah.
And I was
not. And we weren't all. Some of us were not.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I was a slow reader, so
Oh, there you go. Yeah. That was I was the the weirdo in school. I think a lot of us indie comics people were the weird kid in school.
Oh, sure.
And yeah, my problem was that I went to a very, very small school, and I was the only weird kid. There were no other weird kids. That was my problem.
Girl, same.
Oh, and it was a Catholic school too. You ain't met a nasty, nasty person until you met a kid that went to Catholic school. Oh, meanest. Kids are mean. Catholic kids, meanest. So anyway, yeah. So what for future stuff for this story? See, because we can't get too spoilery even for the beginning of the series that's been out for years now.
No.
But for the beginning of the story, or for the end of the story, this is not the end of everything. It's the end of this arc, I guess,
right.
If you want to put it that way. Like, if you decide to jump back into this world immediately and continue, not actually leaving, continuing on, where do you think you'd go first?
There are 2 places I'd like to go. One is about 5 years after Chapter 6 ends. Man, I cannot really talk about how Chapter 6 ends until people have read it. But I can say this, that Dr. Hanover has always been, she's based on Kurosawa movies. She's based on spaghetti westerns, and she's based on Conan the Conqueror, Conan the King, Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Slave, Conan the Pirate. And so Conan had all these uh, little lives that could be written into a novel. You had a life that was 18 months long or something like that. So you could have a bookshelf um, of the novels. And yeah, the one that I want to do for Dr. Hanover in the future, immediately, is putting her in a leadership role, which she has really, really rejected up until this point.
Yeah. She
Um,
kind of she kind of gets herself tangled up into a leadership role at one point, but she definitely never wants to be in it
yeah, and as
throughout
soon
the
as she
book.
gets the opportunity, she burns it all down. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, and there's so much going on there. She doesn't want people to have to depend on her because she doesn't depend on herself. Oh gosh, I'm getting all worked up about her, but so putting her in a and like I've always said, kind of jokingly, kind of not, that nobody who seeks public office is qualified to hold that office. Like you should be dragged kicking and screaming into any position of leadership,
Sure.
um, because you're the person who's right for it, not because you want it. When you want it, you're seeking power.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, if she's in a leadership position where she actively wants to disavow power, where she actively wants to like not be in charge, that's one. Then there's a period between like her kind of finishing up her residency and about to start making money and paying off her student loans, and how she ends up in the short story at the end of chapter 4. Because that is kind of in medias res, and she is already in a really, really awful situation there. Um, Abuse and slavery and addiction and cruelty, um, and being a prisoner, really. So how did she get there? And I'd love to get into that. I have this whole. I grew up in Central Virginia, and the big cities near us were like Washington D.C. and Baltimore. And I've always like had this fascination with Baltimore. So she's from Baltimore, and her family's from there. And like, who are they? Who is her family? Who are her mom and dad? Where did she grow up? Um, and I know where. I've seen it on a map. I know where her house is.
That's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty interesting to think of her as like just a regular kid growing
Yeah.
up, a regular college student, like
Hmm.
regular. Yeah, it's weird to think of her as that because of who we meet her when, like who she is when we meet her. That's
Yeah.
wild. And I would love to see to learn why she how she ended up in the short story situation,
Hmm.
and then all the stuff in between then and book one. That I mean, like there's just a lot of story to tell. It's all very interesting. It's a very interesting mystery to me, and I yeah love to hear it. And again though, I think that I think that if you were like, tell me what you want to hear first, that's the story I'm gonna do first. If you gave me that privilege,
Hmm.
I would say I want to know about Rogers. But I
Ah,
definitely,
okay.
I don't know, I just like him.
Yeah. So, Dr. Hanover, right now at this moment in the current timeline, is that like eighth to ninth to 10th grade kid who's reading these comics at the wrong age, right?
Sure.
I pictured her getting a hold of the playlist that I made, and like playing that for a couple weeks and then forgetting about it. So that's I picture her as kind of an early teen happening right now. So Dave Rogers would be um, uh, a low-ranking sergeant in the Marine Corps right now, in his, maybe 19 or 20. Um,
Okay.
and we every time you refresh CNN, there's another like potential for America to get into some awful conflict overseas. So I feel
Hmm.
reasonably confident that like that 20-year-old man is about to see some gnarly shit.
Yep. Yep.
Um, yeah, and like early chapters 1, 2, and 3, he talks so much about discipline and training, and I so the Marines, but I think all armed services have particular bugle calls for particular times of day. And I listened to recordings of bugle calls that call people to an emergency, that call people to this, that, and the other. And in 1, 2, and 3, whenever you hear, whenever there's sound effects or a bugle, that's me transliterating the sound that I heard.
Sure.
So yeah, he's by the book because the book saved his life.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. He's kind of. I mean, he's. It's not too spoiler to say that he's kind of the guy in charge.
Yeah,
Especially like at the beginning, we meet. I think he's one of the first people that Doc Hanover meets.
yeah, he's the one who will meet you when you come through the door, for
Yeah.
sure.
And he's like he's even just looking at the art, he's just a very commanding looking guy, and he just would probably be that one that you would, if you just walked in and didn't know and nobody came to see you, like you'd just be like, I think that's the guy in charge. Like he just looks like that kind of guy.
Yeah, even though it's really Ernie Martinez, but he puts Master at Arms Rogers um,
Yep.
up there for him. He's the first person you have to deal with, and he's scary.
Yeah, he's a big guy too. Like you can see when he's standing amongst the others in the pages, you can see he's a big guy too. So wouldn't necessarily want to mess with him.
No,
So yeah.
there's this great moment in chapter 2 where he's delivering a talk to the assembled troops, and like I needed him to stand in front of maybe 2 or 3 silhouetted people who are silhouetted at their backs, right? And so he'd be
Mhm.
talking to them. And what Zach did was he put the camera up here looking down on Rogers and then drew like 150 people in the audience. And I was like, that
Sure.
one panel, oh my God, it's so good. You didn't
Zach
have to do
Zach didn't
that.
know how to half-ass things, though,
No,
did he?
you didn't have to do that at all, but holy shit. Yeah, and his size and his presence was really there.
Absolutely. Um, shit, I had a question. It was there and then it was gone. Oh, I don't want to like it's technically like this the thing that I'm referring to has happened. It's been published. We're not kickstarting that book. However, there's a thing that happens happens with Rogers that makes me wonder, um, what about his past? Did he like has what kind of bad stuff happened to him before we meet him in this book?
Yeah,
That would mean maybe that would make me maybe this thing that happens has a precedent, you know.
yeah.
I don't want to be too spoilery. You can be spoiler if you want to. It's your book,
No.
but I don't want to be spoilery.
Um, yeah, it has to do like he gets injured early, and the fort that they live at is self-sufficient because it has its own medicinal gardens, and we see that on the way up. And going back in history, opium poppies are grown for a reason. The opioids that we take for pain control are just that refined, 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 refined. Um, so for pain relief, yeah, he is given opium, and I don't think he personally has a history of drug use. He's really by the book.
Hmm.
But what I have seen more than once is somebody who was minding their own business and gets prescribed an opioid painkiller and all of a sudden has absolutely no control. Um,
Hmm.
and it sneaks right up on you. And I think that's where he found himself.
That's fair. That's a thing that, particularly since the pandemic, has been a very huge,
Yeah.
glaring problem. Like, I mean, it's been a problem for all of us for a long time. I mean, I know about the United States; it's been a problem for a couple of decades now. But I don't know. I can't speak as to the rest of the world, but I suspect the rest of the world potentially has similar problems.
Yeah, sure.
And so it's a good um like to watch. It's not great to watch anybody, even a fictional character, struggle with this kind of thing, but I think that if somebody were to pick it up and read it and they were struggling with a similar problem, they might find some comfort in knowing that it's such a ubiquitous thing. It's not just you. It's so important of a problem that people are drawing it into comic books.
Yeah, and it's the strongest guy in the story.
Yeah. Oh yeah. By
Like
far.
nobody, like if you put him and Dr. Hanover up, and you're like Anubis weighing their heart versus a feather. He is the paladin. He's the straightest shooter you've ever met. He's the sweetest guy in his heart, but he'll kick your ass, and like he is the most heroic. Um, Maybe he's the most heroic person I've ever written, honestly. But yeah, like just like so many people we've all known, uh, it's easy to lose control.
Absolutely. I'm curious about if we got to see more of him and Hanover hanging out and being friends. If we got to see like more of that and the longer duration of that, um would they really be that close of friends? Because Hanover has so much that's so flawed about her, and it goes directly against the things that we start to suspect that he stands for. So I wonder, would they actually be friends, or is this just like you gotta hang out with who you can find in the apocalypse here?
Yeah, but that's fantastic. I love that. And like this is me psychoanalyzing my characters, but any writer who tells you that their characters aren't part of themselves is either wrong or lying. Um, so yeah, I'm looking at this part of me that's Hanover, and this part of me that's Rogers, and I mean, she, like, despite all her meanness and her rebellion and self-destructive ways, she loves that guy. She didn't at first, um, but like I think his personality, his presence was just enough that everybody respects him, and she doesn't just respect him; she likes him.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that would, if we got to see more of that, like maybe we could see some of his goodness rub off on her and make her stop being such a bonehead sometimes.
Oh, if only.
'Cause we just don't get to see that much in this very short section of this whole universe in this one person's life, because we're basically focusing on Hanover through the majority of it, and we just don't get to see that much of it within these books. And like, because would she would you ever make her, would you ever are you like totally against this idea? Like, would you ever write her meeting somebody who makes her into a better version of herself, or is
Oh,
she just
she
gonna be?
it's got to happen, or she's going to die.
Yeah.
She can't go. I
um
mean, people don't live long being that kind of asshole.
yeah, she makes too many enemies. Even, I'm like, I don't know if she makes an enemy in every book. Does she?
At least one. I mean, sure.
Yeah. I mean, she just makes, it's not like she's like, you can see that she wants to be she wants to do the right thing, but she just sucks at it. She's just bad at being a good
Yeah,
person.
like how many people does she kill in every book, right?
Oh, right, right. And yeah, like, unlike a lot of them really don't deserve it. I mean, it's complicated. You have to read
It's
the books to understand
complicated.
what the hell I mean by
Yeah,
that. But like, it's
yeah.
complicated.
The big fight scene that wraps up chapter 6. She's in the wrong place at the wrong time. She made the wrong enemies, and she gets out of it somehow. But she has made a whole bunch of enemies there that weren't enemies before.
Mm-hmm. This is it's a really good wrap up to the arc. And yeah, if you've read the other ones, you'd be wrong not to get this book. It's really hard to talk about it without messing the story or without.
It's also kind of fun, like having a limit. Like, I'm not allowed to say this. We haven't said anything that is legitimately spoilery.
It's the goal, right?
Right. I mean, it's
like
no
I said,
longer...
there's gonna be spoilers when I the thumbnail says there will be spoilers, and like, not for book 6. We're gonna try not to do that, but for the other books, I can't make any promises.
Yeah. It's no longer a spoiler that Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Exactly.
It was. Holy shit. I saw that on the big screen for the first time the first week it was out, and everybody in the theater was like, what? Yeah, so I don't think we've even done Darth Vader's Luke Skywalker's father level spoilers yet. I think we've alluded to things, but
yes,
we haven't.
Hopefully to entice people to back the.
One would hope.
But yeah, like, I'm trying very hard not to, and I can see you trying very hard not to, because it's a really interesting story to talk about. Like, when the book's been out for a couple of months, maybe you can come back and we'll have like a, like when everybody's had their opportunity to read the book, we can come back and have like a in-depth dissection of the entire series with I don't know, we'll invite Mike Watson,
I want a couple
a bunch of people.
Submit like a... Yes, exactly. I want Morgan involved too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I know he will shoot straight.
Yeah, oh my gosh, Morgan is so good at dissecting stories. Like, like that tiny ass little story that Katie and I did for Elsewhere #2. Tiny story, and he had like a dissertation on that damn thing. It was like 8 pages long, and he had a whole thing about what the hell's going on in this. And I was like, Jesus Christ, Morgan, I didn't think it through that much. I'm not really much of an author.
Yeah, he'll take a checkers game and turn it into 4-dimensional chess.
He will.
Quick, fast.
And it's actually, I love that, because I love when people do that, because then it challenges you to make your story better, even if you're done writing the piece that's published. Like, even that piece is already published and done, but like, now I'm better for next time.
I can write 3-dimensional chess, but I can't put it on that time axis. So I'm glad that I can build it for the real intellectuals.
Yes.
I'm shooting. I'm fighting above my weight class, but I do my best.
Yeah, that would be really cool to do. Like, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that in a few months. We've got the books published and sent out, and everybody's had their opportunities. And then we'll have to, because Morgan for sure. Gosh, I'm trying to think who's been like our big fans right from the beginning that maybe want to come. Maybe, what's that?
Quentin Rushing.
Yes. I mean, Fish jumped on about halfway through, I think, but he's, I think, big fan now.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
And being that he's done a couple covers for us now, maybe we could have him come too.
I don't know until I got a chance to talk to him here recently that you do know the books.
Yeah. Morgan wanted Katie and I to do a sequel to the story that we wrote. Like, it was really hard to get enough fleshed out to make that little short story, and now you want more. So yeah, it's there's a lot of like he can do that to just like I said, just 8 pages. So I can only imagine what he could do if we say, okay, we want you to do that, but with all 6 of the surgeons. That would be
Free reign.
very interesting. And then you can just you don't have to say anything. You can just sit back and take notes if you want to.
I'll cry, and like it'll be as revelatory to me as an ayahuasca trip under supervision with shaman. I'll understand the truth.
There you go. Yeah. So after so directly, do you have plans of what you want to do besides making a trade at some point? Like I mean, I think we all want that. But do you have plans? Do you plan to continue writing this? Because like you've done at least 2 other books. I remember, Hot Brass and Up from the Skies, and those are
nice.
Drastically different from this story. Well, okay, so the Hot Brass is not drastically different, but different enough.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's like Scooby Doo, and this is an NC-17 Clint Eastwood picture.
Yes, for sure.
So I do have a book that I'm working on with an artist who wanted to. We met at a con, and he wanted to do something together, and it's like maybe 60, 70 page graphic novel. I can say, what if it was Cannonball Run set in the Expanse? So it's a solar system sized race, and it's funny, and it's got, like Cannonball Run had 8 or 10 teams that you'd follow throughout. So that's what I'm shooting for there. I'd say I'm about 2/3 of the way done with that script, and I'm ready to start writing that again as soon as I can quit refreshing the Kickstarter for this.
Yeah.
For The Surgeon, I consider that, I mean, that's kind of my flagship title. When I go to, I'm finding that people have actually read it. Like they come up to me and say, "Hey, I like that book," and I'm like, "Wait, what? That's a thing?" Mm-hmm. Wow. So that seems to have the most traction and longevity. Yeah, I'd love to start talking with artists about where we wanted to take it, because I have a couple directions that I want to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Do you have any plans to pick up in this universe in the near future, or are you gonna just take a totally drastic turn and with this Cannonball Run meets?
Oh, I mean that's like Hot Brass Pharaoh's Gold. That's kind of a self-contained story. That's not something I'm building to be a universe where, like, I would consider it a success if I got to the point where, The Surgeon, and actually the Up from the Skies universe, if I could allow other people to write in that, because it's so well defined that they can say, okay, these characters do these things and they would interact these ways, and within canon I can take it in this direction. Like, I would like that. That would be cool.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. That sounds fun.
So The Surgeon, if you give me a notebook and a pencil, I could have the script Bible for how to take it backwards in time, back toward the East Coast, and I could tell you how to take it another 10 or 15 years forward in time.
A lot of story.
I would prefer to do it though.
Yeah, well, it's your baby. I mean, yeah, you should.
I'd like to have it well enough to find that somebody else could do it, right?
Sure, okay. Well, I mean, I look forward to more stories about, like, I mean, in this universe, and obviously particularly with the characters that we've already met. uh like I mean, I would like to see more of the surgeon, but there are just like, there's so many other characters. What happens to Little Bird after the
Mhm.
end of this story? What happens to all of the guys that he runs with, all the people that he runs with, his whole crew? What happens to the people in Turtle Island? What happens specifically with Abner and Martinez and like everybody, Smithy,
Yeah.
all of them?
Have you
I
read
want to
any?
know.
Have you read any Black Hammer?
That's familiar.
Black
Um,
Hammer is Jeff Lemire, I think, and I think it's a Dark Horse book, and it's kind of, um,
oh, this looks familiar.
there's
I think it was one of the ones that I grabbed on Hoopla and
yeah,
read digitally.
it's the same old like, we have a superhero team from the Bronze Age of comics, and now they've aged out of their prime, kind of like Umbrella Academy or whatever like that. But Black Hammer has done a good job of like focusing on characters and going back to their origins, because it starts with like, I don't know, maybe half dozen people, and it takes their story forward, but then it goes back and looks at who all was made up the team.
Yeah. That's what I want to see. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you like
And Paint. I want to know what happens with Paint. I bet you could write a whole series, like maybe not a whole series, but like just on what happens. Where did he come from? How did he meet Hanover? Like, I want to know that too.
I do too. So Avatar: Last Airbender. When things are really hitting the fan, Appa, the flying bison, is missing for a while,
Yes.
and
Oh
then
my
at
gosh.
the end of
Yes.
that, you get Appa's Lost Days, and it follows him around. I definitely
Yes.
have stories for Paint on his
That would
own.
be. Oh my gosh. That would be such a good. Oh my gosh. Oh yes. Let's do that too. Let's do that too. Okay.
Let's do
Okay.
that
We're over
too.
time now. We gotta stop. So yeah, thank you so much for being on here. And if you're watching now, if you're watching later, go check out The Surgeon Chapter 6 Blood. It's go.lagunastudios.net and check it out if you
You just
want it
got
back.
super pixelated. It was like bar, bar. Sorry.
Sometimes I do that in real life too.
Yeah, me too.
So, but yeah, okay. So back it if you got the money. Back it if you're interested. If you want to support us, but you don't want to back right now, totally understand. Like when you see our post pop up, like it. Share the link. Comment when you see these things that we post about it. Comment on all of our posts, so that helps us. Tell somebody else about it. Tell somebody that you know likes apocalypse westerns.
That would be
like,
amazing.
yeah, that's all. Every little bit helps. Even if, like, yes, money helps, but so does sharing. So does sharing.
Yeah. And for anybody who's watching, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. I'm gonna write stories or something else, right? And something else might very well be like drinking too much and starting bar fights, right? Like, so this is a healthier outlet for me than the alternative. And so, just to know that I can do this and that there is an audience for it, and that there's an audience that's appreciative enough to give this level of support is humbling and sweet, and I love it. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Agree, concur. Well, and thank you for everybody who joined us live. Thank you for everybody who's watching it later. And we're going to be back next week with Brian Lambert to talk about Air Force Ones.
Yeah.
Which you should also go back. And if you want to know more about that one we'll be talking right to the creator directly. And you should come back and watch that. And John, you can come too if you want to.
Okay. Well, he's going to have to show me some more than he's shown me. Like, I'll let that guy read a copy of Surgeon 6, and here I am, like, wondering what's up with Air Force Ones.
Yeah, and it looks so good. And he had an animated trailer. Did you see
I
his
know.
teaser? It makes our teaser look like, well, our teaser's only okay anyway, but like
Yeah,
his looks awesome.
that's not my
It
skill
yeah,
set.
it turns out that none of us know how to mix audio. That's all it is. Like the pictures are fine though, so just you could go watch it on mute. It'll be fine. But the audio kind of sucks because
Yeah,
we
give
don't
me a
know
call and
what we're doing.
I'll do the voiceover better than what got recorded.
Yeah, well, we're working on that too. Like this is, you know, we do what we can with what we have, and that's what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
And again, it's still fine. It's just that Brian's is better. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Brian's
and
better.
just that, you know, like I thought we were friends, dude. You know, whatever.
Right?
Yeah. It's all right.
There's Brian. Hey, Brian. Wrong Brian. This guy though, you're gonna have to watch out for this guy though, because he's got his hands in some Laguna Studios stuff that's coming up here soon too. So we gotta keep our eyes on this guy, make sure he doesn't cause any trouble. So that being said, it is time to go, and I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate everybody who was watching. I didn't say that like in whole words, but you get my meaning, right? So
Thank you, everybody.
and we'll be back
Thanks,
next
Dad.
week. And yes, go back to stuff. Go.lagunastudios.net, and we'll see ya. Bye.
Good night.